Hey, greetings everybody. Welcome back. It's GleeCon with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we ran around in Westfall with our priest, a human priest, Kalia, in World of Warcraft Classic, and did a pretty sizable chunk of quests. I'd say we're a solid maybe third of the way through that zone. It's pretty good. Not too much trouble, just pretty grindy. Um, we have also been reading the Horde Player's Guide in the World of Warcraft Dungeons and Dragons setting, and we are plowing our way through that. And specifically, lately, we've done a couple episodes looking into the history of each of the races. Kind of a recap of a lot of what we know, and a little bit of some nugs in there. So stay a while and listen as we continue that with this section of the 6th chapter of the Horde Player's Guide, which is about Tauren history and culture. Ever see humans poleaxe a cow? On big farms, they need to slaughter a lot of cattle, but you don't want the cows to kick up a big fuss and start butting people and panicking the other cows. Got to keep them nice and calm so that the rest of the herd doesn't know what's going on. So, what the humans do is they take a big old stone hammer with an axe blade on the other side and coax the first cow into the slaughter shed. Then they wind up and knock the beast right between the eyes. After that, the cow stands there and stares at the wall without making a sound while the humans turn the poleaxe over and cut its throat. Falls over and dies without a fuss. Tauren are good people, strong as a mountain, calm as a stream, and been across Kalimdor so many times they know the rocks by names. But sometimes I can look at their eyes and see that blank poleaxe cow stare looking back at me. See, the thing is, the plains of Kalimdor have been home to the Tauren pretty much forever. They never developed technology as they always felt that doing so was wrong. I don't know about that. I'd rather have a solid rifle in my hand over rocks talking in my head. There's those that say I've got both. That's another matter entirely. Though the Tauren never had an inclination toward technology, I've seen the Great Lift in Thousand Needles and the tri-level city of Thunder Bluff. The Tauren have inventor potential, that's for sure. Heck, this is weird. This is such a weird start. They don't care for that potential, though. They want to keep on living the way they've always lived, and that's where the trouble starts. Well, the trouble really started when Karen Bloodhoof ran into Thrall, the Orc war chief, about 5 years ago. Doomhammer was dead by then, and Thrall was on his own as the new war chief. He had the idea that Orc progress lay in rediscovering their shamanistic traditions and abandoning the current traditions of killing anything that moved and then dancing on their entrails. The days of ancestor worship and spirit talking were long past, though, and Thrall needed some help. When he met up with Karen, he realized the Tauren could offer that help, and Karen saw potential in the Orcs. He was more than willing to steer them back on the right path. This was all during the mess and blunder of the Third War. Supporting the Orcs sounded good in theory, but the Tauren soon found that in practice it meant going to war. Killing night elves, fighting off humans, chopping down trees to build siege engines. Of course, the Tauren tried to temper the destruction as much as they could. Tauren have always been mighty warriors and tough hunters, but they had no precedent for mass warfare. The Third War was a rough time for the Tauren as they tried to figure out their place in the conflict. They willingly lent their might to their new allies, but something about killing night elves and humans and dwarves and high elves didn't sit right with them. Perhaps they sensed the foolishness of the mortal races bludgeoning each other. Eventually, they worked it out all right. After the war, the Tauren and Orcs drove away the Centaur, and Tauren Thunder Bluff sprung up atop a series of butts like a giant mushroom popping out of the ground one night. They've patched up some of their differences with the Night Elves. Tauren Druids even study up at the Moonglade. The Tauren portray their race as the healers and counselors of the Horde. They know how to keep the land happy. They help train the Orcs as shaman. And in general, the Tauren are the ones who know what's really going on. So they say anyway. Then you look at the Grim Totem tribe. I'll talk more about that later. Suffice to say, there are some Tauren who think that violence is a perfectly acceptable way to solve problems. And you look at all these young Tauren headed off to the big city, that's Orgrimmar, to train as warriors. They listen to the stories of grizzled orc veterans and come away with the idea that there's nothing more glorious than charging into battle so some tin-clad human can run a pike through your gut. And you look at the Forsaken lurking underneath Thunder Bluff, whispering with the Elder Crone, tolerating their nature-loving allies while remaining completely unnatural creatures. Tauren seem to have it all figured out, sure. They are good people, and Cairn Bloodhoof is the best leader they'll ever have, though he's showing his age lately. But sometimes I look at their eyes and wonder if they'll see the hammer coming, and the hand that cuts their throat ain't necessarily going to be Alliance. It's like they're too good for the Horde, is what he's implying. I disagree, but I would say really it's the Forsaken that are the odd ones out. And they're trying to rectify that a little bit lately as of Shadowlands. Kodo Run. A Kodo Run happens maybe once a year if the season is good for Kodos and if the shaman declared an auspicious time. A group of Tauren hunters roam the area near a cliff searching for signs of a Kodo herd. Once they find one, they hide behind portable grass blinds in a staggered pattern leading up to the cliff. Kodos, it seems, don't have very good eyesight. They're big and strong, but almost blind as bats, so when the herd nears, hidden Tauren light a big bonfire behind the massive beasts. The Kodos spook and charge away. Tauren pop up from behind their blinds, one by one, yelling and jumping up and down. They wave big rattles in the air to spook the Kodos more. The Kodos charge one way, another Tauren jumps out. The Kodos charge the other way. It's a big wave of controlled panic. I couldn't have believed it possible if I hadn't seen it myself. Then the lead Kodo hits the cliff. He can't see it until it's too late. The rest of the herd follows faithfully, and one by one they hit the rocks 30 feet below, down. A handful of Tauren hunters can take out a whole herd in one run. Then the rest of the tribe shows up, kills any Kodos that survive the fall, and hauls the carcasses back to camp. This begins a week-long ritual of feasting, tanning, and preserving. At the end of it, all the bits of Kodo they didn't use could all fit in a single bucket. They've got tanned skins, preserved meat, bleached bones, and wound sinew enough to last them for months. All the time they sing and chant praises to the Earth Mother and to the Kodo spirits. So we did not get a lot of Tauren history. Bran basically sums it up as, yeah, they've been doing the same thing forever. And now they join the Horde. Kinda, whatever. Considering they're probably, as I've said before, they're right up there as among my favorite, if not ultimately my favorite race. I feel like we could get into them more. Tauren culture. For the most part, Tauren possess a unified culture. Some folks see Tauren as just big, dumb, lumbering beasts, but they're really one of the most intelligent races out there. Tauren don't live primitive lives because they're too stupid to build big stone cities. They choose to live that way. And they choose to live the way they do because they thought it over and it makes sense to them. Tauren believe that all life is and nature is sacred. In a way, they think that nature is alive, so it falls under the philosophy of all life being sacred. I asked a shaman if that meant he thought rocks were alive, and he explained that life didn't mean breathing and bleeding, though that's always how I defined it. When a Tauren says life is sacred, he's talking about a kind of spiritual energy that permeates the natural world. The Earth Mother represents that big spirit, and little spirits all inhabit rocks, trees, and the like. That's why the Tauren don't like mining and deforestation. It disrupts all those spirits and disrupts the Earth Mother. They try to live while making as little impact on the world as they can. For example, they respect the animals they hunt by never hunting more than they need and by using every bit of the animal they can. That reminds me of Kodos. I had the chance to see a Kodo run last time I was in Thunder Bluff. Never seen anything like it before in my life. If you ever have the chance to watch one, I recommend it. Tauren hold great respect for their elders. An old Tauren expression goes, it takes a lifetime to make all the mistakes in the world, but only an hour to sit at a grandfather's knee. Basically, Tauren think that it's smarter to learn from your elders than to blunder around and muck up things yourself. The young ones always find ways to make their own mistakes, of course, no matter how carefully they listen. Tauren tribes always take care of the elderly. Even if all your relatives are dead or you never had any to begin with, elders always get fed and housed first. In lean months, adults go hungry while the aged and the young eat first. This might seem backward to some, as the adults are the ones who hunt and protect the tribe, but Tauren have always lived like this and will likely do so until the end of time. I heard many stories and legends in my time with the Tauren. That's another of their cultural beliefs. While they're a literate people, the Tauren don't believe in writing down history or legends. They pass down their traditions orally. Tauren don't understand why you leave a piece of paper to teach your child the important things in life. Through storytelling, they turn history into a living entity. They bond with their young ones and impress them with the importance of their people's stories. Maybe that's why Tauren youth are so willing to live as their ancestors have done for years and years, when so many races' youths are rebellious. Tauren's respect for elders is a facet of their larger cultural belief, the importance of family. Tauren don't believe in small family units. Tauren children are the responsibility of all the members of the tribe. If someone needs help, it doesn't fall to his closest relatives to help him. Every member of the tribe is related where responsibilities are concerned. It's a nice idea, and it works great in small Tauren tribes. I wasn't sure if it would work in bigger settlements, but Thunder Bluff has the feel of being one big family. I gotta tell you, too, these guys know how to throw a party. The Tauren celebrate everything with a big festival. They celebrate the change of the seasons, the rising and setting of the sun, when a baby is born, when an old person dies, when there are lots of animals to hunt, when there's nothing to hunt. Each celebration has distinctive touches to distinguish it from other celebrations, but they all share three things in common. First, food. You'll never go hungry at a Tauren party. Roasted meat, dried meat, stewed meat, dried berries, fresh berries, boiled root vegetables, baked root vegetables with oil and herbs. At the renewal of the sun in Thunder Bluff, I once saw 6 whole roasted pigs lined up on a single table. Tauren hate waste. I sometimes suspect they invent a celebration every time their stores get too full so the stuff doesn't go bad. Okay. We're going to get back to that party because, or the elements of the party, because we have a quick Tauren legend, Osak and the White Kodo. In the year when the Kodo left the land and the birds had but one egg in their nest, Chief Osak looked at his people and saw how thin they were and how sunken their eyes. I must feed my people, Chief Osak said. I must bring them through the white season and into spring. Chief Osak looked at the food stores, and he spoke to the hunters, and he knew there was not enough food to bring his people through the white season. Chief Osak walked through the still forest and meditated. He meditated for a long time, but no wisdom came. Finally, his bones aching, he turned his steps back to the tribe. As Chief Osak passed through the still forest, he came upon a startling sight, an old Kodo with a pure white hide. The Kodo glanced at Chief Osak and kept moving through the forest. Enchanted Chief Osak followed the Kodo, and before long they came upon a clearing. In the clearing was a lake of clean, fresh water with many fish. Deer drank from it. Chief Osak looked a smile toward the White Kodo, then returned to his tribe to tell them where to find food and water. The White Kodo is now a symbol of prosperity among the Tauren. Okay. Second, dancing. Tauren love dancing, especially dances that involve pumping their arms. They have about 16 different tribal dances to show when they're happy, sad, thankful, or angry. Tauren teach their children how to dance almost as soon as they can walk. Third, drums. You can't dance without drums. Tauren built these giant wooden frames and stretched them tight with tanned animal hide. It's hard to pound those giant drums hard enough to make a good sound. Ritual drummers have enormous muscles. You can see the sweat flying off them during a celebration. I figure you could shoot a cannon off in the middle of some Tauren rituals and no one would hear it over the din. Okay, let's discuss some example Tauren celebrations. Most Tauren tribes engage in the following celebrations once a year. There's Dance of the Earth Mother. This 4-part celebration marks the change of the seasons. Performed at the start of spring, summer, fall, and winter, the ritual involves burning scented grass and herbs to ease the Earth Mother's transition into her new form. At this time, Tauren feast on the traditional staples from the previous season. For instance, to usher in spring, Tauren consume the last of their winter stores, such as dried meat and preserved vegetables. Renewal of the Sun. This ritual, performed at the height of summer, celebrates the continued rising and setting of the sun. Tauren view this ceremony as a celebration of the possibilities of a new day, and use it to motivate them to change over the following year. At the renewal of the sun, all Tauren dress in shades of red and orange and wear gold or copper jewelry. Corn, carrots, and other sun-hued vegetables make up most of the feast. And Kodo Drum Circle. Despite its name, this festival celebrates the sacrifice all animals made to the Tauren tribe over the last year. A drum circle in which a Tauren constantly beats a drum until another Tauren takes her place forms and lasts all of a day and a night. The drumming honors the slain animals and asks the blessing of living animals who would give their lives for the tribe in the coming year. It is a bad omen for the drum circle to break before the end of the festival. Hunting, of course, is a big deal in Tauren culture. Hunting is how the Tauren live. In past years, they were an entirely nomadic culture. Tauren would wander Kalimdor following Kodo herds and relying on the land to sustain them. Hunting is therefore almost sacred to Tauren. It's a mark of pride in adulthood when a Tauren child goes on his first hunt. Hunting doesn't just mean you're big enough to hold a spear now. It shows that your elders believe you are wise enough to appreciate the sacrifice the animal makes for you, and mature enough to honor that sacrifice. Children who go hunting learn how to bring prey down, but also learn how to treat the carcass after you've bagged it. Tauren don't let their prey just rot in the dirt. Hunters must offer appropriate prayers to its spirit and skin the beast with the proper rituals. Some involve herbs and a shaman's intervention. It's a complicated practice that requires many years of study. Shaman teach the hunters the right rituals because shaman connect the Tauren to the Earth Mother. Shaman deal with animal spirits and the elements. They're the ones who hear voices on the wind and interpret signs and portents. Tauren look to their shaman for spiritual guidance and education, so shaman, particularly old shaman, see my earlier notes on respect for the elderly, are considered the most powerful and important members of the tribe. Tauren can't just decide to be shaman, mind you. It's a calling. A Tauren who has dreams about the past and hears spirits talk to her, could be destined to be a shaman. She could just be crazy, too. All right, let's take a sidebar to talk about spiritual hierarchy and Tauren titles. The Tauren possess a structure of spiritual hierarchy. The most talented and powerful shaman traditionally hold positions of power, though rulership is not limited to spellcasters. Shaman interpret the voice of the Earth Mother and the wishes of the ancestors. Sometimes these interpretations lead to the rise of hunters and warriors in the tribe, such is the case with Karen Bloodhoof, the current chieftain. The leader of the tribe uses the title chief and or chieftain. The three most powerful healers in the tribe support the chief, the most powerful of whom takes the title seer. A chief generally consults his seer and her two contemporaries before making a decision, but this consultation is not required. The leader of the United Tauren tribes, Karen Bloodhoof these days, also uses the title chieftain. During council meetings, chiefs make recommendations to the chieftain, but again, the final decision is the chieftain's alone to make. Chief, chieftain, and seer are genderless titles. Aged female shamans sometimes take the title of crone or elder crone, which others use as a sign of respect. A nascent shaman learns the history and legends of the tribe and the Tauren people by heart. She has to visit the sacred sites of Kalimdor, go on vision quests, see Chapter 4, Magic and Faith for more information on vision quests, and learn about all the different types of herbs and plants shaman use in their rituals. Most young shaman study for years, though some particularly fast learners seem born with the gift. These fast learners might become true shaman in less than a year. Once a Tauren becomes a shaman, she usually stays on to assist her tribe. Some feel called to wander, though, and take a year-long or longer sabbaticals when they walk the length of Kalimdor learning all they can about the land. Some shaman also feel called to leave their tribes and form new tribes, particularly if game in the area grows thin. Bottom line is, the Tauren aren't just big brutes who wander around the plains and hunt gazelles. Their culture developed over hundreds of years, and each Tauren fulfills a particular place in their complex society. They have troubles and trials, just like all of us, but solid Tauren culture provides a safe place for youngsters to develop and learn. All right, so that's it. We have another episode in the pipe, 5x5. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching and listening, and I will see you all next time on Lore of Warcraft.